What's up, guys? It's the real main event, the Rogue Soldier, the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I'm Mrs. Crossfire.
And once again, you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation. Shakalaka-laka.
What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 85 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the essential John L. Crossfire, and I'm here today talking to the host of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. He is the dad bod god himself. It is Piers Austin, and in this interview, you're going to hear myself and Piers reflect on the life of Kyle Eade. This episode will be dedicated to the memory of Kyle. Rest in peace, man. As I said in this conversation with Piers here, I've gone to message him myself multiple times already, and it still doesn't feel real, but I'm loving seeing all of the, just the outpour of love and respect from the entire Australian wrestling community. It's really good to see that we can all come together, much like, with the injury of Benny the Backrower, which is also very unfortunate. And of course, the GoFundMe link to that is still live, and I'll put that in the description. But it's just great to see the Oz wrestling community coming together for such a, it's such a terrible situation, and death is always untimely, but especially untimely when the kid's only 23 years old. But, rest in peace, Kyle. This one will be for you, and every wrestling show that I go to in the future, I'm going to try my best to be as loud as I possibly can in your honor. But the song of the week for this one is going to be Purple Rain by Prince. You'll find out at the tail end of the conversation why I've picked that one. And the match of the week will be Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, in my opinion, the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. And again, as you listen to this conversation with myself and Pierce, you'll find out why exactly that one was selected. But yeah, I'm thinking of Kyle's family and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the bald, the beard, and the beautiful himself, Piers Austin.
Yeah, let's do it, bro. Nothing's off limits, bro. Ask anything you want, man. You'll get an honest answer.
I've only got a handful of notes, but I'm sure we'll just go wherever the conversation takes us. But ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the dad bod god himself, the host of the best fucking podcast in the world. His words, not mine. Certainly a lot better than this one. He is the host of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. He's the bald and the beautiful, again, self-proclaimed. He is Piers Austin.
What is up? What is up? Yes, it is me, the truth, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the freaking beautiful Piers Austin. And I'm the host of the greatest podcast in the world. That is right, the greatest podcast in the world, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. And I am honored, and it's my pleasure to be here in Court in Conversations with Johnny Crossfire. I'm excited for tonight. Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on, man. We've threw it around, like fucking, I don't know how many months ago now. I threw it out there, and then just as fate would have it, we lined it up. But we were talking just for a second, off camera or off audio, I should say. It's an audio podcast. But we just mentioned the very first question I'm going to come out with. We're going to get very sentimental here, straight in the get-go, because we've all lost someone. I'm going to dedicate this episode to the memory of Kyle. I had about 4 or 5 people all ask, what is Piers Austin's favorite memory of Kyle Eade, straight out the gate?
Man, Kyle, he honestly was one of, he was a kind-hearted kid. And, you know what I mean? Like anyone, bro, he could be annoying at times. So can I. So can you, bro.
Brother.
we can all have our quirks and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he had a heart of gold, and it was just a genuine human being. And he cared about people, and he loved to support people. And I remember, first seeing Kyle's name pop up, when I first started podcasting, bro, in months into it, bro, I'd had a few internationals, and then I started interviewing a couple of the Australian wrestlers, and I started doing that more and more. And I started seeing Kyle's name continually popping up and asking questions every episode. And then it was like following my social media. And every time I would post something, like Kyle would be the first person every single time to hit that like button. And yeah, man, like that's honestly like just someone who was a genuine supporter of the industry. And I feel like if this could teach us anything here, is to just be kinder to people, be more accepting of people's quirks or personality traits, and understand a little bit better that, like, just because someone may be a little bit quirky doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. And maybe we should just give people a bit more of our time and, you know, just be a bit more present when you're in that moment with people as well. Because I feel like if it's very easy for us to get caught up in our own shit all the time and caught up in our own head and, oh, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, I've got this problem. Well, guess what? There's someone out there with more bigger problems than what you're dealing with or what I'm dealing with. And sometimes, you know, when you interact with people, the mood that you're in, you could be in a bad mood. You could have a fight with your boss. Your boss could fucking tell you off because you did something wrong. Then the next person you interact with, you've got this negative energy on you, okay? And then you pass that on. So try and break that. Like, if you have a negative experience, don't pass that on to someone else. Dust that shit off. And I feel like that's kind of the thing, man. Like, when, you know, don't take people for granted that you have in your life. And people that are genuine and people that are just want to see people do well, you know, I feel like they need to be, you know, shown a little bit more love. And, you know, I think Kyle did get a lot of love from a lot of people in the business. And, you know, I like to think that he did. I know that he did. You know, you know, and I feel like I genuinely looked forward, and like sometimes when I would be doing a live podcast and I'd see Kyle spamming the comments, I'd be like, oh, fuck, man, like, really, bro, come on, man, like, just chill.
One question at a time, bro.
You know, but yeah, bro, but it's just like, man, like, I'm not going to see that again. And that really, yeah, bro, that really sucks.
I personally, I've lost count of how many times I've legit gone to send him stuff over the last 2 days, just out of habit. Like, you know, when you see wrestling clips or just, I don't know how, like, we basically just communicated with stupid memes damn near 24/7. But the amount of times that I've gone to message him since, and then I've kind of had that facepalm moment of, oh, fuck, like, he's not going to see that. But it's the same with me. Like, I only just finally met him in person the weekend of the Impact Tour. Same week I actually finally got to meet you face to face as well. But pretty much every day, constantly, we were talking about wrestling or music, and he'd always ask me like about how my eyes are going and like, when am I coming back? And I'm like, bro, like, I'm chill. It's the same as you said. Like, yeah, I'm dealing with shit, but there's other people out there. But thank you for caring, right? But as you say, that's just the type of person he was. And like, there was a couple of times where I had to pull him aside, and I know a few people did, and it was like, you know, tone down the language at family-friendly shows, yada, yada. But for the most part, he was just a loud fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was all out of passion. It was all out of love. He traveled all around the fucking country while working a minimum wage job to support the promotions and the wrestlers.
Any money he made, it went into
pretty much
like you know what I mean? Like I remember him like saying, he's like, oh man, like when, you know, when we debuted the shirt, you know, which we'll get into later, but he was like, oh, I want to get one. I'm a Piers Austin guy. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, oh man, nah, like, it's all good, bro. Like, you don't need to go and do that. He's like, no, I want one, you know, and it was just like, oh man, that's cool that he'd want to actually wear that. You know what I mean? Like, and buy that, where it was, you know, he was just, yeah, just like I said, just a genuine human being, bro. And, you know, honestly, I wish I took the time a bit more to be around him. And it's like, dude, the times I was at it, like the shows I was at, It's like, you know what it's like on show day, bro. Like they're long
hectic,
days,
man.
right?
Hectic.
Yeah, like they're long days, dude. And you know what I mean? So sometimes it's just like you're a bit tired, you just want to go eat, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's one thing I'm going to just take a little bit, like, not take for granted with people is like, man, if someone wants to talk to me for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like, I'm going to give people that extra time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to slow down and not be in a rush all the time. Cause that's how I am. Like, I'm always like, all right, I'm going to go, cause I've got 3 kids, man. I'm on the go nonstop. So I think now it's just going to make me slow down and smell the roses a little bit more.
Well, a lot of the people that I was seeing that were sharing stuff about him, they were all saying the same thing. Like, there was this big debate, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago of should you or shouldn't you take photos with the boys because of kayfabe and this, that, and whatever. And I'm like, well, if it's going on your personal pages, I don't really give a fuck. And they're like, if anyone embodied take the photo, it was Kyle. Because, like, look at his social media, man. I'm like, even my wife was like, is there a wrestler in Australia that he hasn't met at this point?
Well, dude, I think it's different for Kyle. Like the take a photo thing, and like that's more for workers.
Yeah,
that's
no,
more
but
for,
you know what I mean. Like, if anyone
wrestlers
embodied
people, yeah. But he's a fan. Like, he doesn't like, dude. He paid for meet and greets at the Impact thing. I'm pretty sure. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, that's wild. Like, to go to that level of wanting to do that and stuff like that. Like, him and his mate Josh. Like, Josh, who is an amazing dude. You know, someone I have the utmost love and respect for, man. Yeah, he's had a rough couple years, man. And dude, like he's a strong dude. But yeah, man, both him and Kyle, man, both hardcore fans, man, of wrestling. And you know, even my podcast and other people's podcasts in the Australian scene as well, bro. You know what I mean? Like, he just had love for everybody, man. That was it.
Yeah, I remember, like, he randomly messaged me like the week of the show, and he's like, "Hey, man, can we get a photo while we're there?" And I'm just like, bro, like, you're at the Stars of Impact. Why the fuck would you want a photo with me? But I'm glad I did take that now, because it was the first and only time I actually finally got to meet him.
Yeah. So, like, I actually found a photo on his Instagram of me, him, and Vinny Vane, and I wanted to share it, but it would be like it's out of context, because it's like there's him in the middle of me and Nathan, and we're both giving him the finger, like we're just both staring, like not even looking. Like, I'm looking that way, Vinny's looking that way,
working the
and
gimmick,
Kyle's
brother.
And Kyle's like full smile, like thumbs up, and we're just like working the gimmick. But he was like, "Oh yeah, do that, dude!" Like, he was so excited for it. He's like, "Oh, thank you so much!" Like, he was like, he was so happy that we did that.
Well, it's
and
like
it was
the
like,
one that's PWA shed where Jess has him in the armbar, and everyone's like, "Motherfucker, you're not even selling it. You got a smile on your face." And I'm like, "But it's such a good photo."
Yeah. It's wild, man. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot to sort of take away from this, and such a young person going so suddenly like that, man. It hurts, and my thoughts and you know, go out to the entire Eade family and his closest knit people in his life, because I'm, you know, as much as we're all devastated by the news, you know, what they're going through is just on a different level, and, you know, just thoughts go out to them.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, that you can, it's just words, but thoughts and prayers if you believe in them, because, like, as I said, I didn't know much about the dude outside of, you know, wrestling and music. We spoke wrestling and music pretty much every single day, but that's what I mean. Like, the actual people that actually got to know, you know, he's pretty much like us. He's a very open book. You know, that was very much his love and his passion. There was no secret about that. But what little was behind that, and they got to know, you know, as you said, just thinking of them, man. And because, you know, grief never gets easy. It's creeping up on 4 years now that I lost my dad next week, and I'm still one hand it feels like yesterday, on the other hand it feels like fucking 20 years, you know. But just if anything we can take away from this is, as you said earlier, just be fucking nicer to each other, and make sure you slow down and take the photo. And I guess now we can all just go to shows and be extra loud in his honor.
Dude, I'll tell you how the sort of person he is. He was at a show that I was on. I was like, before that show, I was literally had my face in the toilet bowl vomiting before we went out to the last EWA show. And Vinny's like, I keep trying to say his shoot name. He's going to kill me. But Vinny's like, bro, just stay back here. Like, it's okay. Like you're white as a ghost. And I was like, just dripping sweat. And it was like middle of winter. And I'm like, no, I'm right. I go out there, do the show. After the show, there's a little bit of a thing. And Kyle said something. And I was just like, dude, like, hey, man, like, blah, blah, blah. Pulled him up on it. He's like, all right, cool. Like, whatever. And then he messaged me the other day. I know a couple of days afterwards. And he said something to me. And I'm like, and like, what do you say? He's like, hey man, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't respond to it straight away. And he's like, oh, have I done something wrong? And I went, dude, you know what? At the show, like, I felt like you disrespected me. I go, I'll get over it. I'm a little bit upset right now, but I will get over it. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm frustrated. And like, his first thing was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it was like 100 apologies. And that's the sort of person he was. The fact that he thought he did something wrong by me, which at the grand scheme of things, it was nothing, bro. Like, in the grand scheme of it, it was nothing. But like, I said to him, it was like, I didn't have a go at him. I wasn't rude. I wasn't malicious. I'll send you the message. And it was just like, hey man, you kind of, I felt disrespected by the way you spoke. I'm a little upset, but I'll get over it. But like, dude, and I was trying to say, and I said to him, be careful who you say things to, because you might not come across someone who is going to know you like I know you, or, the Australian scene and community of the wrestling community, know you. So if you do that to someone else, you may find yourself in a very bad position. He was like, and he was just like, oh, okay, man, thanks. Like, I'm sorry once again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. He was just wanting to make sure that we were cool. And I was like, yeah, man, we're cool, bro. Like I said, just a little bit upset. I'll get over it. I'm a big boy. I'm just having a fucking tantrum. You know what I mean? Like, and he just laughed at it and was like, okay, cool. Thanks, brother.
Nah, and that's what I said. Everyone like, yeah, look, you could be a bit over the top at times. Can't we all? You get me in the element, especially on show day. I'll be obnoxious as fuck, and it's not intentional. I just get a little excited, But he was a good kid and he meant well. And as I said, I didn't really know much about him outside of wrestling and music, but he was always constantly there. Like, how you doing today? Like, how is the family? He was always, he was a genuine caring dude is what I took away from it, at least.
100%.
And I feel like we're going to keep sounding like a crack record, but that's got to be a good thing, right? Like there literally is a hole in Oz wrestling right now, and even internationally. Fucking Danny DeMonto, owner of ICW No Holds Barred, literally tweeted about the impact that Kyle had on him when ICW came over here last year, and I'm like, well, that just shows you just how much passion that he has, that it radiated with people that were just here, visiting, sort of thing. But
for a short time, yeah, absolutely.
But we'll try and put this on a more happy note. I didn't mean to rant for that long, but as I said, I just wanted to get that out there so I didn't forget. But if we wind it back, Pierce, I know that you've been a wrestling fan for quite a long time. You're a little bit older than I am. I'll be nice. I tell you what, if I look as good as you do when I get to your age, I'll be happy. But what is your earliest wrestling memory, man?
Earliest wrestling memory is when Hogan beat Sheik. I remember being like, I was probably like 3 or 4, and I remember like watching it. And then like as I got older, like through that time, because that's like that was when the wrestling boom was happening, right? Like that early to mid 80s. So like my older cousins who were like 7 and 10 years older than me, they're like watching this every chance that they could get. And like I remember sitting there, and I remember seeing Rowdy Roddy Piper, and I've seen him crack a coconut over the head of Jimmy Snuka. And
dude, that clip is fucking iconic.
But then something in me just went like, it was like I was drawn in by the good guys.
But you stay for the bad guys.
Fucking, yeah, the bad guys fucking got me, bro. And I saw like, Roddy Piper, doing his thing. And then like my cousins had tape of like Ric Flair and that's probably a bit later in the 90s and stuff like that. But I was always a fan of it, man. Like there's like my grandmother, like, before like she passed, like in her house, there was a photo of me when I was like 4 or 5 years old walking around in yellow underwear like this with a yellow bandana, and she had it blown up and framed, and every time like I'd bring a girlfriend over or something, she'd be like, oh, this is Pierce when he was his Hulk Hogan phase. And she's like, I don't think he really grew out of it. And they're like, what do you mean? Well,
yeah, I remember my mum telling me when I was like 12 years old, it's just a phase, and then 12 years later, she's following me halfway across the country for my very first interstate booking.
So this is how much of a mark I was back in the day. So when I was I would have been like 17 years old, and like I grew up in West Ryde, and like that's like 20 minutes from Parramatta. And there was this store which was a wrestling store. Like it had like all wrestling T-shirts, memorabilia, everything like that. It was just all pro wrestling. And it had like one section of it that have all these belts. And I remember like there was there for years, this place. And I remember I was like 17. And I was like, I went in there and I ended up buying a WCW US title. And it was like, it was so bad. Like it was like the leather was just like all fucked up. Not fucked up, but it was all stiff and shit. But anyway, I thought this is the greatest thing, right? So I bought that belt, and I remember taking it home, and I'm like just walking in my fucking house, this thing over my shoulder going, what the fucking man is this? I walk in, my sister's like, oh, that's cool. My dad's like, what the fuck is that shit? And I'm like, oh, there's a belt that I just bought. He goes, a fucking belt. He goes, what pants you wearing? That fucking. I go, no. And he goes, this is a piece of shit. Like, what the fuck? And he goes, how much did you pay for this? I'm like, $400 Like, I saved for this thing, right? And my dad's like, nah, fuck this. You're taking it back. Drove back up to the store. And my dad's like, oh, we want to return this. They're going, nah, no refunds. And he's like, fuck. He's like, all right. He goes, you can do a credit. And he's like, for what? Well, you can get another belt or any shirts. He's like, yeah, we'll get a credit. You could go pick out a bunch of fucking shirts. It's like the shirts were like, I got like 30 fucking shirts. But anyway, and then as we're leaving, the fucking person goes, what about the one he has on lay-by? And my dad just stops. He's like, and he just looks at me and goes, you're fucking kidding me. He goes, what? Yeah, the Big Eagle. He goes, you big eagle, big fucking idiot. No, he doesn't want to. All right, wait, how much do you put down for that? 150. Go pick out another $150 worth of shirts. So.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, man. That's when I was like, all right, no worries.
It reminds me of my dad. It was always like, why can't you remember your schoolwork the way you remember this wrestling stuff? I don't know. This is just how my fucking brain's wired, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
But moving on from earliest wrestling memories, this one's laid because you've been in multiple different parts of the industry as well as having the podcast. Sure. But what point, Pierce, did you decide that you wanted to be part of the business? And then following on from that, how did you take that step? And was there ever any plans or wants to actually be in ring, or did you always just want to be, I shouldn't say just because I myself am an announcer and it's a fucking hard job, or did you want to be an announcer, manager? Did you ever want to be a wrestler? Was my question.
Yeah, I did. Like when I was like younger, I definitely did. When I was 19, like I started working. I was 18. Sorry, I was working at Cash Converters. And this woman started working there. Like after I'd been there for a few months. And like she was talking to someone else, and like, oh, what does your husband do? Blah blah blah. Like, and he was a pro wrestler, and they're like, oh, Pierce is a huge pro wrestling fan. Like, you should go tell him, and like maybe like you can introduce, like Pierce could meet your husband, and maybe he could, because I think he would really want to get into the business. And like, okay, cool, blah blah blah. And like this woman comes over, talks to me. I'm like, oh, straight away, I'm fucking popping huge for this, right? Because I'm actually going to meet someone who's a professional wrestler, right? And then like, so I go, all right, cool, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, all right, cool, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And this is before, like, I think I had mobiles, right? But there was no Facebook and shit. Like, so that she's like, okay, cool. She calls him on a lunch break, whatever. And she's like, yeah, he's going training on Saturday morning. He said, be here at 9 a.m. and he'll drive you in and he'll introduce you to Mark Mercedes. And I'm like, all right, I don't know who Mark Mercedes is. And so, yeah, like I go and I'm there and this big, like massive Iranian dude called Iron Mehdi Basiri is like 6'2", 6'3", and probably about 125, 130 kilo, just a big boy. And he's like, you Pierce? And I go, yep. And he goes, all right, let's go, bro. And then like he takes me off into this like this hall where like IWA is training guys at the time, and I meet Tyron Townsend and Mark Mercedes. And they're like, okay, so, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they full like, yeah, no worries. Yeah, this is what it all is, blah, blah. And then they hit me with, it's $1,500 up front. And I'm like, fuck, I'm 18, right? I don't have $1,500. Like, come on, man. Like at that stage I was earning like what, $150, $200 a week. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, what the fuck am I getting? Fuck. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, no worries. You know, got to roll around a bit, you know, and like I started going, like me and Maddie became pretty good buddies, and I started going to shows quite regularly and stuff like that. And, you know, always wanted to, but it was just like, you know, he also took me to meet Andy Animal Harpus, who was training people as well. And he was like pretty cool, but at the time didn't have a car, couldn't get there. It was like, look, dude, the fact is, if I wanted it bad enough, it would have happened. But like, I just put it down to, I just didn't want it that bad enough, because if I did, I would have done it. I would have pushed, I would have found a way.
I mean, let's face it though, you pretty much thrive in what you're doing in the business now, between managing and announcing, and you've now stepped into announcing for boxing and MMA as well, which is fucking crazy. The next question I slotted in between my other questions actually come from Samuel Beaton from PW Down Under. And he said he's an MMA fan as well. And he's like, being from both worlds, he's a two-part question. One, has there been anyone from the MMA side that have shown interest in coming into your world? And B, has there been anyone on that side that have given you shit for being part of wrestling because of the whole, you know, MMA versus wrestling debate?
Well, look, I do boxing, MMA, and Muay Thai, and you know, there's certain things, but like nothing that anyone would come and say to my face. Like, if anything, like I had a conversation with someone who's pretty high up in the combat sports world, and I had this conversation with this person this past weekend. And when I was at a show, and they came up and they said, mate, I know you come from the wrestling world, but what do you prefer more? Do you prefer the pro wrestling stuff, or do you prefer this, the real stuff? And I go, well, let me tell you something. I go, it's two different worlds. It's two completely different worlds. You're comparing apples to a banana. And I said, professional wrestling is entertainment. It's athleticism. It's a display of combat. It's many things. It's draws your emotions. And he said, and he cuts me off and he goes, oh, mate, I love it. And he goes, and it must, like, he just put it over. He put over wrestling. He's like, the fact that they fall and teach themselves how to do that, he goes, it's so unnatural, and like to be able to do that. And he goes, mate, he goes, I enjoy it. He goes, it's my guilty pleasure. And I was like, but this guy who was like, you'd sit there and think like this hard-nosed combat sports dude.
You expected him to kind of just come in and...
Yeah, like I thought like, okay, like, where's this? Is this baiting me into something? And I was just like, all right, I'm just like, all right, cool. Just, you know, and he was like, no, man, no, it's great, blah, blah, blah. Like, next time you're on a show, let me know. I want to come down and check it out and support. And I'm like, all right, cool, bro. You know what I mean? I was like, that's dope, you know? But no, man, if anything, the combat sports world has really welcomed it, because you know, for me, like you asked me earlier, and sorry to sort of bounce back, but you asked me like how I got into the business.
Yes,
Was that one?
Like how do you, like, because for me, I literally fell in my lap. Mr. Saturday Night, Tristan Slade, who you've had on your pod multiple times, saw I wanted to be a wrestler and was basically like, if you actually fucking want this, show up, put the ring together, don't complain, don't bitch out. And I was like, I am there, good sir.
Yeah.
So did someone reach out to you, or did you then ask the guys that you were training with? How does this all, you fall in the lap of becoming a ring announcer and then it finally becomes Pierce's now?
Well, yeah. Well, I never trained. I never trained to wrestle. I never bumped. I never did that one, like
that one roll around session.
That was that one roll around session. Yeah, like I wouldn't even say like it was anything. It was literally just going through. Did you build
any connections through that at all, or?
No. Oh, look, not really. Like it was like I met Robbie Zuko back then when he was wrestling as Rob Matrix. You know, but even then, like up until only like a few years ago, like did me and Rob really reconnect? Like we weren't like friends the whole way through. You know what I mean? Like it was nothing like that. Like
now he's your co-host.
Like for years, like it was just like for years I was a fan of wrestling. And I just watched it from the outside in, like, you know what I mean? Like I watched a lot of the shows. I tried to check out as much Aussie stuff as I could. Then I started the podcast and, you know, we went into, you know, lockdown and COVID and started doing more and more podcasts and started getting out when shows would come back out. I was just going and supporting, and most of the shows were like, hey man, just come before the show, come hang out. You know, I'm like, all right, cool. So I started doing that. I never really approached anyone to get in. It was I got offered I'm very grateful for my position that I've been in and the opportunities I've got in. So please don't anyone think that I'm saying anything negative about that. But I was approached to do some ring announcing for AWE, and then in the same week I was contacted by PWA to do some commentary for Green Label, and the I was like, yes, grabbed it. Sorry,
was that for the premiership shows that you did the announcing on?
No. Gale and Rose did. Chris Gale and Andy Rose did those. No, I did. There was a Green Label show. I'm trying to remember what the name of the show, but like my commentary partners were Jack Bonzer and JT Robinson. So I was like sitting in between them. I'm just like, fuck. I was shitting myself.
Especially next to Bonzer, you're like, if I fuck up, this dude's going to cave my chest in.
No, not that. But it was like, it's just,
no,
you know what I mean? Like, it was like the first time doing it. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, and then I just had FWA reach out. And then it just sort of, just really went from there. And, you know, the ring announcing commentary thing happened. And then, you know, Vinny Vane, who everyone knows, who I manage on the, or I'm the agent for, you know, me and him are very good friends, and we formed a very close friendship. And, you know, we were talking after I think it was my 200th episode that I did. And like, it was just like, yeah, and like, I think I was asked on that, would I ever go and train and wrestle? And I was like, nah, man, my time is done. I'd rather support the business and be that little bit of a sizzle on the outside of it, and to, you know what I mean, to keep it sort of, add a little bit of salt and pepper when needed or whatever it may be. And I said, and I'm quite happy with that, and which I am. And then Vinny was like, nah, man. Like, he goes, I want to have a match against you. And I'm like, fuck that, bro. Nah. Like, I haven't said this to anyone. I'm like, fuck that. No way. No fucking way am I going to do that. I said, I respect the business too much. And I said, I'm not that much of a mark for myself to do that. No, I'm not doing that. And he goes, well, I want you to be my manager then. And I'm just like, all right. Cool, let's do it. How do we do it? And he me and him sat down and we talked about it for a while, and just wanted it to and we wanted to be able to tell stories and promos and stuff like that. And yeah, man, that's how it all sort of escalated. And the boxing and stuff like that announcing just came off the like pro wrestling side of things as well. So.
Fuck yeah. because that was going to be my next question, was whose idea was it? But you just said it was Vinny's idea. But that's not. It's not a bad thing. I mean, like, what's the worst thing that happens? Like, if you go out there, you shit the bed, don't do it again. But even when you just look at you guys, like in your promos and stuff, it just looks right. Like, because between Vinny and you, it makes so much sense from an aesthetic standpoint. And then you get out there and you start doing your thing, and he does his thing. It makes too much sense.
Yeah, man. Like I think it's because we are good friends. Sorry. And I think that like that definitely plays a huge part of it, because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I know what he wants. But the thing is as well, like we've done some promos and people go, you guys don't need to swear in every promo. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. And then then we sit back and we're like, but that's how we fucking talk to each other. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to swear on your show.
Dude,
I don't know if that's allowed.
Every second word I say is fuck, because I'm ADHD as hell and I couldn't be bothered to edit it out.
All right, cool. So yeah, like he's like that, and we both just sat back and was like, yeah, we can't do it. But it was like every time it's like, fuck. Like, we just, like, that's just how we talk. Like, when we're talking to each other, he's like, yeah, fucking this, blah, blah, blah. Like, we have to be careful. It's like, if we're driving and, like, I'm in my car with my kids and he's on speaker, and vice versa, if he's with his kid and I'm on, and he's got me on speaker, we're like, oh, yeah, dad duty. And we're like, okay, cool. And we're like, yeah, blah, 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 frig. Blah, blah. So.
Well, this thing's beeping at me, so I'll quickly hang up and I'll call you back and then we'll keep rolling.
Okay.
Ah, bloody thing. All right.
Peace. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, man. I just had to hook my phone up to the Bluetooth on my soundboard. Son of a bitch.
Am I coming through to my microphone?
Yeah, man. It's all coming through on my headphones. So, cool. The lines are moving on my soundboard, so that's a good start. Fucking
yes.
I'm going to have to edit the shit out of this. Anyway. But yeah, we were talking about you and Vinny. From then on, man, like, as you said, it just kind of just trickled effect, yeah, for the boxing and the MMA and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But from an announcer perspective, is there one that you prefer to do?
The one that pays me the most money.
I mean, that's fair, honestly.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I love them both, and it's both enjoyable in its own different way. Like, it's wrestling, I found, I don't know, like, it just depends. Like, with wrestling, there's not a lot of really great really good wrestling commentators in Australia. Like, there's a handful, you know what I mean? Like, there's a handful of people, and it's like, but there's also a lot of people that are just not really on that level, or don't really.
What a maneuver.
or just don't take it seriously. And that's the thing, man. Like, I try and present myself as a professional. If I'm on commentary, you'll see me in a full suit with tie, and that's just how I present myself, because it's like, I'm going to look like a professional. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do business like a professional. So to be honest, they're both enjoyable in both different aspects of announcing. The MMA stuff, the boxing stuff, and the Muay Thai stuff is still new. I'm still sort of like cutting my teeth into that. I've had people compare me to Michael Chiavello, who is, Australia's #1 combat sports commentator. Apparently I am the doppelganger for him, and I sound exactly like him as well. So that can only be working in my advantage for sure. But, they can get the bootleg Chiavello with me. But no. But no, like, it's both enjoyable, man. I love it.
In terms of the actual commentary, is there a slight different approach between commentating for wrestling and then combat sports? Because for me, I lucked out to where usually the wrestlers go and be color commentators. I actually do play-by-play when I do the wrestling. But with the wrestling, you're more of a color commentator, aren't you? Do you do the same with the combat sports, or are you more on the play-by-play side there?
Just depends what they want. Yeah, like I can do the both in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, it's to be play-by-play in professional wrestling, people think you have to be able to name every single move and know all that. No, it's like, Your job as a commentator is
that's like the bottom of the barrel.
yeah, bro. Like you just got to be able to, execute the emotion into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like the brutality of the striking, that's, you know what I mean? Like you just got to emphasize what you're
pinpoint accuracy of that knee drop.
Yeah, like there's, you know what I mean? But there's certain ways of doing it without sounding like cheesy and all that sort of shit. And if you're creative and you've got, a sharp wit about you, you're going to be able to fire things off quick-wittedly and just be like bang, 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 bang. And, sometimes that takes a lot of, that does take time to do. Like, I feel very comfortable now going and doing commentary, but the thing is I like to make sure that I'm prepared and have notes and all that sort of stuff.
I did a show by myself in October, and all fucking day I was sitting there shitting myself. I'm like, fuck, like I'm basically Joey Styles in this shit. And then once the fucking show started, it was just bang, bang, bang. And I only had like one or two little bit of constructive criticisms here and there. And it was more to do with the actual technology side of things. And I'm like, well, I don't actually control that. So that's a win in my book.
Yeah, man. But like,
it's a lot harder than people fucking think. I can't just sit down and chuck a headset on and away you go, much, which, with a podcast you kind of can, but announcing definitely not.
Yeah. No, it's a lot, you got to put the effort into it. And like I said, there's a lot of prep that goes into it. Even in the fight game, man, like the last show I was actually like on, which was Endeavor Fight Series, which I've got their shirt on underneath. I'm not going to take up my hoodie off because I'm freezing, but they like on that show, like literally I had someone going and getting notes. That was what they were there to do. And that was like, they said, yeah, this person's going to be your commentary partner, like, but they're going to go get all the notes. So you just need to go get ready. We're going to do some other content with you here and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, all right, like the fact that I didn't get to go and ask that. And it's like, well, okay.
One less thing for you to stress about kind of thing. Wouldn't that be nice to have at every wrestling show? I feel like... I don't know how to say this without burying the business because Lord knows I fucking love it, obviously, but I feel like combat sports being a in quotation marks on an audio podcast, being a real sport would be more organized in that aspect all around, yeah? Because Lord knows on wrestling shows it's this person's pulled out and this person's pulled out and you've got to rewrite the whole fucking thing on the fly. I'd imagine there'd be a lot less of that in combat sports, yeah?
Injuries happen. All that sort of stuff. But yeah, like combat sports is very regulated. So there's governing bodies overseeing a lot of things. So that sort of stuff is very much like not every show I'm on do I have someone going and getting writing notes for me and stuff. Like sometimes I got to do it on myself. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to like you don't have time or you don't have access to the athletes. For whatever reason. And it's like, okay, now I just have to sit down here and I have to call what I see in the ring. And like that, let's go. That's what we're going to do.
Just amp it up.
Amp it up, man. And that's what I was brought in for is to add an extra, exciting element into the commentary side of it. So they wanted the entertainment side, like, from the pro wrestling side of my commentary where they're like, oh, okay, well, this guy can actually sounds pretty good on the mic. Let's get him in here. Oh, okay, cool. He's actually doing well. So,
well, you do have that kind of voice though. And I think that's why your podcast is so successful. And we'll wind back to that. You mentioned you really started popping during the pandemic as everyone and their dog did. That's why I'm here. Toyed with a podcast for years and then finally just went, fuck it, I'm bored. But where did you finally, when you first started dabbling with shooting the shit and MWA and all at the very beginning, what made you want to start your pod?
And honestly, it was just wanting to talk shit with talk wrestling, with a few of my mates. And, that turned into me going, oh, fuck, I'm going to reach out to some wrestlers and do some interviews. And, I got to interview, first up was like Shane Taylor. Then I had Thunder Rosa. I had Zicky Dice, Tim Storm, You know what I mean? Vince Russo. You know what I mean? Like all these people very early on. Angel from the Baldies, who I then went on to start a podcast with called Wrestling with Tragedy, which went on to be on Vince Russo's The Russo's brand for 2.5 years. So, you know, like, it was just sort of went from there, really. Like, it was just to start to talk some shit with some friends. And then I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to reach out to people and do podcasts. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I should interview Australian wrestlers as well. So that was, you know, my sort of motive. I was like, I know Australia's got some, you know, entertaining wrestlers here and got some great wrestlers here. So, yeah, let's put it on the podcast. And just, like I said, it just grew from there.
Why not? I basically did the same thing. I'm like, I'm sure my wife is sick of hearing me rant about this match and that match and everything in between. Let me talk to some like-minded people, and even if only one person listens, it's like an audio diary, basically.
Oh yeah, like it's funny because it's like I went to some party with my wife, and it was like a friend's party or something like that. And one of her friends, who my wife's known for years or whatever, like I met and was like, oh, hi, how you going, blah, 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 I'm Pierce. And like, as I walked off and she's like, her friend goes, you didn't tell me your husband was Piers Austin. She's like, yeah, she's like, I know you were married to a guy like Piers.
But it's
like,
the Piers Austin.
And she's like, what do you mean, the Piers Austin? She's like, from the podcast, shooting the shit on. She's like, oh, and this was like, it was like only like a couple of months back, right? So, and my wife's like, huh, yeah, and she's like, yeah, and he does like the wrestling commentary, ring announcing, and he's Vinny Vane's manager. She's like, how do you know all this? She's like, oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of like. She's like, and my wife's like, huh, and then my wife is like, I come back and go, yeah, there you go. Oh, here's your drink, darling. Well, what? And she's just looking at me like...
It's like a scene out of a fucking movie, man.
Yeah, she's like, how fucking, like... what the fuck?
But
I'll tell you what, a crazier story. I'll tell you a crazier story, which to me, because like, I don't look at any of what I am as a celebrity in any fucking way. I don't think of myself as a like a big person or anything. I'm just a fucking dude that does a podcast and I get to do a little bit of stuff on a wrestling show. You know what I mean? And a commentary and shit. Don't look at myself as anything major. But I did a weekend where it was a year ago. And I did a show on a Friday night, which was in Menai, which is in Sydney, about 20 minutes from my house. And then the next night I had a show down in Nowra, which is a 3-hour drive. And on the Sunday I came back. The Sunday I came back, it was pissing down rain. I met my wife and kids at this restaurant because we were all going out for my father-in-law's birth. Go there, everything like that. Get back. My wife's in her car. I'm in my car. She's driving the kids. We're like, we need to go to Bunnings. We need to get something. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm on the phone to my wife. I'm 5 minutes behind her. And she's parking at Bunnings. She goes, oh, I've got to go. Amity, my daughter, is having a seizure. I got to go. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, shit. So I'm freaking out. I get there. Like, we've got our 1-year-old who's in the car. And like my our elder son's in the car. I call her brother. Her brother quickly comes. He's like close by. And like we get an ambulance come, all that sort of stuff. We get it checked. My wife goes in the ambulance, long story, takes her to the hospital. I'm driving behind. My brother-in-law, you know, he comes and takes my boys or our boys and takes them back to his house. So we're driving. I'm driving there, get to the hospital. And they're just about to take my daughter to a bed. We're like, yeah, checking this, like everything like that. And then I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. And the ambulance driver's still, this is fucking weird. Like, why is he here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? Why is he here and not the other one? Like, am I missing something? And then I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, I don't think of it. We go walk off. And he's like, hey, Pierce. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, me and my sons were actually at the wrestling show I met on Friday night. We thought you were absolutely amazing. Would it be okay if we get a quick selfie? And I'm like... bro, I'm like, and my wife's like, yes, he will. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I will. And I'm like, And then I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm walking off. And then I'm just like, he's like, hey, do you mind signing an autograph for my son? And I'm like, my wife's like, yeah, go. And I'm like, fuck is going on here? I'm like, all right, cool, sign it. Whatever. And I leave and I'm walking back like to my wife. I'm like, what the fuck was that about? She's like, he took such good care of our daughter. He was like so amazing with her in the ambulance that if you can take 2 seconds to take a photo and scribble your name on a piece of paper to make his kid smile, you're fucking gonna do it. And I'm like, okay, so obviously our daughter wasn't in, she was stable, she was fine. Yeah. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like it was what's called what's it called? It's called a febrile convulsion. It's like when kids have a little seizure when they're trying to regulate their temperature when it gets to certain. It's just so their bodies regulate. But yeah, like that was probably one of that's the wildest experience I've had. As I said, dude, please anyone listening, don't take that as me big noting myself. It was just I don't know what to say, but as I said, I don't think I'm anything big or major, but that guy thought it was something cool.
But even that though, like that really puts shit into perspective. Like it really does. Like think of, like that dude, like to him, he's just doing his job, right? But for you guys, it's like, fuck, like, as you said, it was a minor one, whatever minor means in that situation. I've been around epileptic people and stuff like that. But
it's more of when it happens, it's more terrifying to the parents than it's harmful to the child. Like the child is like fine an hour or two later. Like
I've never had it happen to a kid, but I've had friends, and my dad used to have them all the time as well. And it's one of those you weirdly get used to it. But like even in a minor situation, there's still that, the panic and the adrenaline kicks in, obviously. And obviously from a parent perspective for you, it'd probably be 10 times fucking worse. But then to go from that to having the ambulance driver go, hey, you helped my kid just by doing this. It really puts into put things into perspective, man. What are words?
Yeah, dude. And like, I was really glad because I was like, but dude, I was just a ring announcer. like, dude, I'm a ring announcer. Like, I mean, I think there's like Diego level ring announcing, whereas he's like, just an enigma to himself. But it's like, I never was like put myself on that ling. I was just like, no, I'm just the announcer, dude. Like, I'm just, but.
I feel that. I feel that.
Huh?
I said, I feel that. I'm like, I'm just a dude doing my thing. Like,
yeah, man.
I'm just in the corner here doing my job.
Yeah, dude. Well, but I don't know, dude. It's just, it's one of those crazy things, man. But it's the crazy world that is this business, man. And, I think that's the interesting thing about it.
But as we creep up on an hour already, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've still got 3 of my actual questions here, but really quickly I'll throw one out there because I didn't write it down. I don't know why, but could you run us through your weekend for Impact Down Under? Because Impact's my favorite promotion and I'm just a massive fucking mark. Obviously, you sent in the application. I did one as well for media. I was unsuccessful. That's okay. I still got a pod with Cam, so that's a win to me. But talk us through that, man. What was the process like from sending the application in and then actually the day of where you were doing your thing? What was that like, man?
I had sort of been in talks with Cam for a couple of months. And it was just more of like, the OPW followed me on Instagram, followed him back, got a message saying, hey, keep you doing your thing. You know what I mean? Like, we'll be in touch. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then, sent a message and I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what I am. This is what I can do. This is who I've worked for and what I've done for him. And, that was it. And then I was contacted by Cam and just said, hey, are you available? And I said, yes. And yeah, he booked me for night 2 for the Impact Down Under showcase weekend. So very, very excited to be able to do that. It was, it was crazy. It was crazy.
It was nuts to me because Doc Archer was doing night 1. So both ring announcers I knew, and I was just like, marking out for you guys before the show even began, because I was just like, fucking yes, like it's a big international thing, and you guys are literally the first fucking face that people that may or may not be familiar with you see.
Yeah, man, it was it was a cool experience, dude. Like, it really was. Like, it was one of those things, like having like Scott D'Amore in your ear the entire night. That was that was like intimidating, man. But it was just, it's levels to it, bro. Like, it really is. And that was like a huge eye opener to go, this is how TV at this level is done. You know what I mean? Like, I could only imagine what like a backstage for an AEW or a fucking New Japan or a WWE or, one of those companies that run at a much bigger scale. Not saying Impact is a small time thing, but I'm just saying, like, it's
more simplified, I feel, with the way they do things, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No. But like, I think like, yeah, Scott D'Amore was one guy I thought was pretty cool as well.
Scott was someone I was actually going to bring up because obviously, you're still front of house because you're a ring announcer, but still somewhat on the border of, production stuff with people in your ear constantly. Did you get a chance to actually talk to Scott and pick his brain or get some advice? Or? Yeah,
so we had a production meeting with Scott, and Scott was really cool, man. Like, he was cracking jokes the whole time. He was like, what did he say to Edwin? He was like joking around with Edwin, the referee from MCW, and he's like, all right, Edwin, don't fuck this up. If you do, I'll come down there and I'll Canadian destroy the fuck out of you, son. And like, we're all like, it wasn't in malice or anything. It was just all in humor. And he's like, all right. And he's like, main event, you're going to introduce the referee. Referee Hannah, do you have a name? Oh, no, I just go by Referee Hannah. You need to come up with a surname. Otherwise, Pierce, you're going to call her Hannah Van Hockelschwockel. I'm like, okay. And it's actually funny. We came up with a name for Hannah, and then it was like when I did the main event arena thing. Because I've never done it, like introduce the referee before, so I was like, I completely missed it. And then in my earpiece, Scott's gone, well, Pierce, we gave her a fucking surname and you fucked that up, didn't you, bud? And it was just like, and then
oh fuck.
Hannah's like in the ring because she's got the earpiece in as well, and she just looks at me
Trying
and
not to break.
Her eyes are just like wide like that, and then he's like, I'm just kidding, pal. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like, but yeah, no, we were talking before the show a little bit, me and him, and it was just like little things we were talking about. I was like, oh wow, man, me and this guy have a lot in common. Like, it was amazing, like that little bit of a conversation we did. But when I came back, man, I was able to grab him for a minute, and I asked him, hey, can I please get a little bit of advice, and can I get you some feedback? And he just said, yeah, man, look, this is what I think. He goes, I think at the start, here, he goes, you recovered. He goes, but you sounded good, you look good, you present well. He goes, man, just keep grinding, bro. Like, because he was more interested. He's like, so what do you do? Like, do you only ring announce, or do you commentate? What do you? And he was sort of wanting to know more about my background. I'm like, well, I do commentary, I do ring announcing, I manage. And he's just like, and he's like, you commentate? He goes, tell Matt or Josh they're fired. We're sending the Aussie kid. And I said, I'm an authority figure on TV. And he goes, well, you can't have that fucking job. That's mine. But he was like, and I was like, yeah. And I also, we're talking a bit, and I told him about the boxing and MMA stuff that I was in. And he was just like, oh wow, like he was just asking more and more questions about that, my background. But after the show, he gave me a lot of good advice and just kept telling me. He just said, man, look, you seem to be on a pretty good path, and you have your understanding on where you need to be and what you're doing. And yeah, he goes, just those couple, you made a couple slight errors. He goes, but dude, nothing that was overly noticeable.
I was kind of feeling bad, but also laughing at the very beginning of the show on night 2, because I was up in the rafters, obviously for safety reasons with my eye at the moment. And someone told you to start doing the countdown. You started doing the countdown, and you're like, oh wait, we still got another minute. And I was just like, you're my boy, Pierce.
Yeah, I think
it was like 10, 9, yes. wow, never mind, we'll do it again in a minute. And I was just, me and my wife were up there, like, I was dying, but you could tell that you were still, like, you're in good spirits about it. It was just like, for fuck's sake, like...
Yeah. I was just like, oh, man, this is like, fuck. This is a rib. I was like, this is going to be a fucking rib.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me from that story you just told me. It wouldn't surprise me if Scott was like, do the countdown, and then it's like, actually, still got another minute.
Yeah, I can't remember, dude. I remember being in there and just fucking like sweating bullets.
Like, yeah, did the full countdown, 10, 9, 8, yeah. And you're like, oh, about that. We've actually got another 60 seconds. Hopefully you got more left, didn't you? And I was
bro.
And I was just like, fuck.
Oh, dude. Like, it was so cool. Like, it was a cool experience, but it was an intimidating experience as well, man. And it's something that, like, I would definitely jump at the chance to do it again. Yeah, man. Like, that, where the future holds, man, I don't know, man. But, yeah, I'd love to do more work like that on that level.
It was an amazing weekend all around. Like, I got a chance to talk to Scott myself for about 2 minutes or so. I didn't pay for him for the meet and greet because I just didn't have the funds left after I got, the guns and that.
Sure.
But my wife and I, we took our tag titles. We're like, fuck it, we're marks. Let's just be marks, right? And Joe Hendry popped so much at the titles that he actually walked us over to Scott. And it was the same thing. Like, I was at the meet and greet and he's still asking me questions about me. And I was just like, bro, like, I'm just a mark standing here holding this fucking gimmick wedding title, and you wanting to know, like, like what I do, and just like, this is fucking awesome,
dude. He's a very cool dude, bro. Like I said, it was intimidating at times hearing him on the thing because it's like when you're running TV, you got to be on point, bro. That's just how it has to be.
And over the years, and I guess, as a kid, I was always like, I want to be a wrestler and I'm going to main event WrestleMania. And then you grow up and realize that you're fat and you're out of shape and you can barely make it on the indies as it is. But like over the years, dealing with this stuff with my eyes and having to take a back seat and doing, ring announcing, commentary and stuff like that, I've actually found I enjoy the backstage stuff more. Like there's a ton of fucking young kids, in Canberra that are 10 times more talented than I am. And I love being able to sit back and kind of push them in the right direction. And I'd love to be in a kind of similar situation to what Scott does. And I was very disappointed. Like, obviously, health comes first for Conrad. He couldn't fly because, risk of blood clots and stuff. But I was very sad when that podcast was cancelled because I was really looking forward to actually picking Scott's brain properly on a public level of, how some of this production stuff works.
Yeah, man. I was actually looking forward to that as well because it was like, I get to finally meet Conrad. But it was like, damn, it didn't get to happen.
Because I'm just like the amount of Conrad has God knows how many fucking podcasts now, but the whole thing it was called The Business of Wrestling, and they were going to give an inside look into what Scott does, as a production manager / president or vice president, whatever he is, he's the head honcho somehow. And I was just like, fuck, the amount of knowledge that he could have dropped just for Oz wrestling in general, because I know that there was a lot of people from a lot of different promotions there, could have done nothing but good, but unfortunately it was what it is. But as we're marking out and talking about Impact, what is, if you don't have to just pick one, I don't have a gun to your head, but what is one or some of your all-time favorite matches, Pierce, both that you've been involved in as a manager and then that you've just seen, whether on TV, live, doesn't matter?
WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat,
yes.
Macho Man for the IC title. That's definitely one.
That to me, like a lot of people say, Taker, Shawn, Rock Hogan. But to me, Macho and Steamboat is still the best match that they've ever had at WrestleMania. I don't know. I could be biased because my dad was always a Hogan fan, so I used to bust his balls and be a Macho Man fan. But fuck, that's a good match, man.
Plus anything with Kurt Angle in it. I feel like he's never had a bad.
Dude, I think everyone says who's the greatest this, who's the greatest that. If you want to talk just general in-ring talent, I honestly think Angle stands above Flair and Shawn Michaels because look at where he came from and then look at what he did for years upon years upon years.
For real, man, for real. I really feel Angle is probably the greatest of all time.
Definitely. But in terms of you, whether it's managing Vinny or managing Banks, do you have a favorite match that those guys have had that you've just been lucky enough to kind of had the best seat in the house, so to speak, at the ringside?
Probably think the FWA Rumble was a lot of fun because I feel like we could have done like a lot different with Banks in that, like because he is so big, we could have had him just, whatever. But then it's like,
the spot.
yeah, but then it's like, what does that actually like give for other people? Like, you know what I mean? Like, people that traveled to be in this Rumble are just going to get jobbed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, like, we kind of think is like, yeah, we want everyone to have their shine, and we thought what would be cool is like if people kept on trying to eliminate Vinny and Banks would just keep catching him and like I'm fucking running around going, quick, this side, this side, this side, this, and like stuff like that. And that's what we tried to work on to really dig into. So, you know what I mean? Like we were like, let's make this fun. Like let's make this like
that
cool
spot though. No matter what promotion it's in, it pops me every time, and I've been guilty of doing it a few times where it's like, catch me, you were supposed to catch me. It always works.
Well, the thing was as well, like, is there was a really cool stare off between Banks and Delta. And it was, and it was like with the photo that we had. Like, I really wanted, like, I don't know why I didn't post it, but it's really cool because you just see like Delta standing there just being all Delta-y, and then there's like Banks standing there and they're just staring at each other. Then I'm like leaning over Banks' shoulder, going, like, no, try it, take him on. So, but yeah, look, I think that was probably like one we had a lot of fun with. And plus like the promo that we shot after that, which I feel was probably like for me, that was probably the time where it just clicked. Like, you know what I mean? Like it clicked. It was like, okay, let emotion come out, like be pissed off, like let that fly, like, you know what I mean? Your clients just yelled at you, you've tried to have this master plan, it backfired, it didn't pull off, fuck. Like, you know what I mean? You have to be like frustrated. And that's where it was like, we did that in one take where me and Vinny turned around and we're like, it was like, you know what, blah, 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 let's go. And it was like, all right, cool. And we're like, start filming from here. And we were walked in, and then it was just like bang, 100. Like he goes, and then it was like there was no cue, there was no nothing. It was just like on the spot, on the fly promo shot, and it was just like I feel like it was captured. Where that's probably been, in my opinion, that's been like my favorite promo that we've done. We've done some other. I feel like that one.
I always enjoy those promos though, because it's like, we're going to get, pissed off Pierce. We're going to get cocky Pierce. But I always enjoy the ones where, like, Vinny starts to get a little bit mad at you and then the sunnies come off and it's like, hey, just remember who's getting all this money for you. But
yeah, man.
The second last question of my core five is usually who's your dream opponent, but you already said that that's passed you by. So I'll say, if there's one wrestler, dead or alive, that you could be the manager of, who would it be?
Oh.
This is the part where he says, Vinny Van.
Vinny Van and Bank. Anyone. I would probably say, I'm trying to think who made the most money. DX. No. I'd probably say Eddie Guerrero or Bruiser Brody.
See, Eddie's my all-time favorite. He's my fucking hero. So I'm automatically like, yep, I'll take that answer. But damn, Bruiser Brody, man, there's always going to be that what if with him, right? What if? Because that dude was on the cusp of like coming into massive. Could you imagine, like, for example, like my favorite manager of all time is Bobby Heenan, and I'm never going to be Bobby Heenan, but he's one of my massive inspirations. And it's like, could you just imagine if a guy like Bruiser Brody had have come in and been a part of that original incarnation of the Heenan family?
Let me ask you this. Who do you think my character's based on?
I do see a little bit of Bobby Heenan in you, but I don't know. There's a few different managers. Like I see a little bit of Freddie Blassie in there as well. I don't know why, but there is definitely a throwback to the 80s, which does make sense if that's the generation you grew up with. That's the generation I go back with just because that's the stuff my dad showed me. So there's like, even though I wasn't actually alive, there's still kind of nostalgia there, but yeah.
My inspiration didn't come from anyone in wrestling.
Okay.
Did you ever watch Entourage?
Yes, yep.
Okay, you remember Ari Gold?
Yes, vaguely. I haven't watched it in years, but yeah.
Yeah, so my character that I portray is based on Ari Gold. So, like, he is like, okay, so to explain who Ari Gold is in real life, Ari Gold is based on Ari Emanuel, who is the CEO of Endeavor, which owns WWE and the UFC.
Yes.
So he is the original Ari. Ari Emanuel is the real life person on who Ari Gold is based on. So my thing is based on Jeremy Piven's version of Entourage's Ari Gold, where like I have taken a lot from like Freddie Blassie. I've watched a lot of his stuff recently, but Bobby the Brain Heenan's been another one. But like for me, like the basis, I wanted to be something different from wrestling. I didn't want to be. And I've had people like give me a comparison to Paul Heyman, which is nice, but it's like, dude, I'm not fucking Paul Heyman.
I can see somewhat like early 2000s Paul Heyman. I can see it there when he was running around being a bit crazy. He doesn't really do that much anymore, and he's more just the mouthpiece. But I can still see that, yeah. But that actually makes a lot of sense now.
But that's something I didn't want to be like Paul Heyman. And you know what I mean? I think the suit thing is probably a thing where maybe I need to change it, but I think an agent needs to be in the suit.
Fuck, that's actually blown my mind. I didn't even put two and two together, but when you throw that out there, it just makes all the sense in the world. But it does make sense, though, because look at it, like even wrestlers, a guy like Shinsuke Nakamura, his biggest influences were Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson.
Well, dude, the thing is for me, dude, I didn't want to be
a carbon copy.
I didn't want to be a carbon copy. So I was like, okay, so when I was trying to work out how this character was going to be and stuff like that, like we were going, oh, what we should do is we should do, like CM Punk and Paul Heyman type vibes. And I'm like, and then I was getting into watching Entourage and I'm like, what about like, you know what I mean? You're like this the bad guy, the A-lister and stuff like this, where like I'm the agent to this. Like I'm getting you all these deals and like getting you these bookings and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah. And then we started playing around on how we'd shoot promos with each other and stuff like that. And then we just bounced off each other and then, bring Banks into the fold too.
That makes so much sense though. But even with like Matt Hardy, the Broken Matt, he was looking at like Dexter and True Blood and stuff that were fairly popular in pop culture at the time, but he just took the little bits and pieces and then sugarcoated it with the wrestling on top. That's just blown my mind.
Yeah. I've tried to do that just as I don't know. Like I didn't want to be a carbon copy. I didn't want to be like a Paul Heyman light or an Eric Bischoff light or insert famous manager name here from wrestling. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to try and have different mannerisms. And once I then started watching more managers and how they do, not how they do, how they do promos to a certain extent, like how the deliverance is, but also what they're saying and how they're saying it, but also like what they're doing on the outside of the ring. And because, there's no way for me to go and learn how to do this. It's like I'm learning on the go and I'm going with guys like Zuko, who I trust, Tristan Slade and, people like, JT Robinsons and these guys that have been around, I'm getting advice from them, but then I've got people like Greek god puppet on over in the States, and Ben Hameen and Stevie Richards and Vince Russo and all these other people that I can reach out to and draw inspiration from, or just sort of get that feedback on how do I do certain things or how can I piece it together.
I dig it. I dig the fuck out of that. I really do. Because, like, I've obviously, from a half-ass wrestler's point of view, I've taken, like, I tried to, like, not be a carbon copy, but then it's like, okay, I'll take this many people, but just take the tiniest piece and then tried to clump it all together. But that's actually a fucking great way to look at it. I like that. Like, you haven't straight up ripped off that character, but you've gone, let's go out of wrestling at least to build the base, and then you've kind of just sprinkled the fucking nuggets of wisdom on top.
Well, the thing is as well, like, you know, it's like there's a lot of people that take from outside the business for inspiration of a character and stuff like that. And that's what it was. I didn't want it to be a carbon copy of Ari Gold because, let's face it, what he said in Entourage back in the mid-2000s, I would get slaughtered for saying it.
Especially on all these family-friendly shows.
Oh, 100%. But, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that's
but like the mannerisms, I get it, yeah.
When I've had to do live promos, I've been able to have a little bit more, like, promoters give me a little bit more leniency. Okay, you can skirt the line a little bit harder, you know, just don't say this word or that word. Okay, cool. I know I'm in my limitations here and I know my limitations and what the line is. So, yeah, no.
Fuck yeah. There's a lot of inside information that I was not expecting from this conversation. I was just like, let's just mark out and have a chat and get to know each other, and then hopefully if I get you back on, we can tackle some more harder-hitting questions, but I don't know. I think you're better at the harder-hitting questions than I am. But,
whatever you want, bro. I'll give you an honest... There's no holding back, bro. Whatever you want to know, you can ask.
As we start to wind down for this one, though, man, what's your all-time favorite match stipulation? This is just the part of the pod where we just start marking out, just because that's what the pod's about.
Right. False count anywhere. I feel like that's exciting. It goes into the crowd. It goes everywhere. False count anywhere. Like old school hardcore match.
I feel like it's one of those ones where it's straightforward and it's simple, but depending on who's in it, the only thing that limits that really is the wrestler's imagination. That's fucking, I dig that. So for me, it's like, it's TLC, but again, I don't want to see people jumping off ladders and going through tables just for the sake of it, but an old school, like, 80s, 90s hardcore match, or even fucking, like, late 70s, like, when you had, like, they were hardcore matches, but they were basically just punching the shit out of each other, but all around the building.
100%, bro. But, like, that's where, like, I feel like now, like, the level of violence is like to another level where the expectations of like certain level of fans expect too much. And that's where like, I feel like sometimes, man, like, dude, if you're going to go do hardcore or like even the deathmatch stuff, as long as you're doing it safely, dude, and like you can actually work and wrestle. The unfortunate thing, and I've said this on my podcast numerous times, dude, when it comes to deathmatch wrestling is like most of the times what I see from it, these people can't work. They're just out of shape, hitting each other with shit and scarring each other up. And it's hard for me to watch, bro. Like, I can't enjoy it. Like, and that's not just the Australian thing, but it's also like internationally as well, bro. Like, I just see and go, this is garbage now. Like, years ago, like, there were some really good workers that could do it. And there's still a few around, but I'm more selective in that sort of shit, that style of wrestling that I watch.
You know, in some of the conversations that we have had and in some of the things I've listened to on your pod, we're very much in that same mindset where we are both fans of deathmatch wrestling, but it's a case of deathmatch done right, you know, like fucking and not to just pointed it out because it's a more recent one, but it's more of the camera job. But on AEW, Moxley legit on camera, just like, we know what wrestling is, but like he straight up just gigs on camera, and we're like, fucking really, dude? Like,
but that's him not giving a fuck. And dude, you put it in like this before that match, right? Tony Khan puts up a list of things that they want to do, like no bleeding, no do this, blah 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 blah, and then they go out and do that. That's the boys going, fuck you, Tony, you mark, you're not going to do shit. And they go out there and do that. What he should have done is put that in after that night and gone, hey, all right, because of the level of brutality, we can't do that again. This is blah, blah, blah. And that's where, like, AEW, their thinking and their level just isn't really, you know what I mean? Like, think business-wise, bro, I don't think AEW, I don't know. I don't rate it. I don't think it's, I think Tony Khan is a money mark with a coke problem, and
I get heat all the time for this. They have so much amazing talent there. They really do. But I can't sit there and, well, even WWE, I still do something while having Raw in the background, but every match is it's basically an indie show, but on television, and you're doing that every single week, gets old really fucking quick.
Yeah, dude. And like, AEW was an indie on a budget, bro. Like that's the honest truth. You look at the storylines, it's not like mainstream television storylines. It's not national television. It's like almost like it's being booked like an indie show.
Well, you've mentioned Vince Russo a couple of times. You know him personally. You've worked with him. He put it best, right? It's not a wrestling show. It's a television show. If you want a wrestling show, either A, buy the pay-per-view, or B, go support the local indies. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm sitting here, I've never done fucking nothing in the business, but it seems so fucking simple, right?
But that's the thing, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But fans hate on him, bro, because he's so factual, bro. He's like, you know what I mean? Like, he wrote a wrestling TV show 20 years ago, bro, and people still fucking throw hate on him, bro. Like, seriously? It's fucking wrestling, bro. Like
you scroll through Facebook and they'll be like, oh, there was only this many minutes of wrestling on Raw or Dynamite or whatever, and there was all these promos, and it's like, yeah, that's because they're trying to get you to buy the pay-per-view, and you'll get all the fucking wrestling.
That's how it is, man. Like, it's people want to, it's hard, man. And that's where it's like, sometimes wrestling gets to a point where, like, there's lulls in it, and then there's peaks in it. And it happens every 10 years. There'll be peak, like what we saw with, Ring of Honor, maybe 2009, 2020, NWA was peaking with Power. All these other things were happening. WWE booking, AEW was sort of like, wasn't really a thing, but the indies were. All these things were coming. AEW was slowly starting to come up. New Japan was on fire. Like, that was kind of like a boom. And then I think AEW came in. There was still that boom happening, but I think we're kind of on a decline now a little.
Definitely. I love how, like, that whole rant just started just because I was asking about, like, match types. But going back to that, right? Two matches that they're not hardcore by, like, today's standards, but there's two boot camp matches with Sergeant Slaughter. There's one with Pat Patterson and another one with Iron Sheik, where the finish is where he uses the fucking spike on Sheik's boot. Because they used psychology, shock horror, both those matches still stand up, and there's not even like anything fancy in them. It's just dudes beating each other up all around the building, and then 1, 2, 3. But it makes so much sense because of all the drama and, you know, amping it up and all that shit. But I'll wrap it up because we're hitting an hour and a half now. But I always end these on a non-wrestling question, and I try to tailor them as best as I can to the individuals. I don't actually, again, much like we were talking about with Kyle earlier, I don't actually know much about you. We just talk wrestling and the occasional music and stuff on your live streams. But you have a great voice for radio / podcasting, announcing, whatever. So with that, what is Piers Austin's go-to karaoke song?
Ooh. You gonna make me sing it? I hope not.
I mean, look, if you want to, you can. This is free entertainment.
Guns N' Roses, "Sweet Child of Mine."
Yep, I'll take that one. Fucking oath.
Or "Purple Rain" by Prince.
Yes.
Purple Rain. Anyway, that's all you get. That's all you get now.
You got to pay for the rest of that. No.
Exactly. Head over to .com/Piers.
I might even make that. The song of the week. "Purple Rain" by Prince.
Yeah, I like it. Let's do it.
Fuck yeah. I'll put that in the intro when I slap it all together later on. But we're just on an hour and a half, so I'll wrap it up this time. But definitely want to have you back on and hopefully ask some more hard-hitting questions. But I always just kind of put the first 5 questions for first-time guests and then just sprinkle in what I've, been asked from the fans, and it was kind of bittersweet because, again, we'll kind of end this how we started. Kyle was actually asking me at Impact when I was going to have you on because we were talking about it on Facebook however many months ago. But thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. Hopefully I haven't wasted your night.
Not at all.
That's kind of self-deprecating, but I'm terrible for that. But your podcast is definitely 10 times better than whatever I'm trying to do here. It doesn't help that
Hey,
I'm
come on,
blind as
man.
a fucking bat here.
No, you can't be self-deprecating, man. You're out here, you're making content, you're having a go, bro. And you know what, man? The more you do it, bro, the better you become, the better you just keep leveling up, bro. You just got to keep at it, man. And man, you will surpass me very, very soon, I'm sure.
I was really starting to hit me groove, and then even after surgery, I was like, yep, cool. My wife was helping me pump out content, and then these fucking headaches and blurred vision have kicked back in, which is all part of the healing process, so fun times. But did you want to plug all your socials and all that, and I'll try and remember to put it in the description when this thing drops?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Piers Austin on Twitter, at the Piers Austin on Instagram, Piers Austin on TikTok, and just search Piers Austin. You'll find me on YouTube and all your podcast platforms and Twitch and all that good shit, baby.
And at STS Uncensored on Instagram also, I think. Could be.
Yeah,
right.
that's correct. YouTube, yeah.
But do you have any final words or things you'd like to plug before we wrap this up? I'm going to be dropping it on Sunday, which is the 6th of August.
No, I've got nothing else to really plug, man. Just everyone just be kind to each other, treat others with respect, treat others with love, and make sure you tune in to Shooting the Shit Uncensored, the place where we shoot the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and your feelings and your emotions get left at the door. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. But you've been listening to The Truth, Piers Austin, the dad bod god on Crossfire Conversations.
Thanks for jumping on, brother. Thanks for jumping on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I'll let you go because I got to pee.
All good. Are you happy with that?
Cheers, brother. All right, that was my conversation with the Piers Austin, and it was very fun talking to Piers. I'm sorry, I do apologize to Piers for being a little bit all over the place. It kind of threw me off when Zoom cut out on us, and then it was like, oh, you have to wait 10 minutes to call back, and then I just thought, fuck it, so I just video called him on Messenger. But here we are, we got it out, almost about an hour and a half of conversation. I enjoyed talking to Piers. He's always a fun time. I love jumping on whenever I can to his lives, even just his live videos in general, where he's just shooting the shit with people. But I love jumping onto his actual live podcasts. They're always great. But yeah, what more can I say? As I said at the start of the show in the intro, the song of the week, Purple Rain by Prince. Match of the week, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 3. An absolute banger. Mwah, chef's kiss. And again, yeah, as I said, this episode will be dedicated to the memory of Kyle Eade. Again, death is always untimely, but especially untimely when, the kid's so fucking young, and I still haven't been able to wrap my head around it. But yeah, I'm thinking of all of Kyle's family and friends, and if I've actually got to record a video for What If It's Cool podcast, and I'm going to actually put the audio to that video at the end of this as well once I've finished wrapping it up. But yeah, and of course, as I said, the GoFundMe link for Benny the Backrower with his fucking tragic incident as well, and having to medically retire from professional wrestling. It's fucking shit. But yeah, thanks again to Piers for coming on. I'm sorry if this episode is a bit of a downer for you guys, but definitely had a lot of laughs and a fun time talking to Piers for the hour and a half that I did. I am John L. Crossfire, and you we just caught in conversation. Rest in peace, Kyle. I'm not sure what exactly I can say about Kyle Eade that, won't already be said or will be said by other people. But, just the tragic, death is always untimely, but especially when you're 23 years young. But he was a good dude. I didn't really know him much outside of wrestling and music talk, but I talked to him literally every day, just about random shit. And I've gone to message him multiple times and it still hasn't sunk in, but it's really left a hole in Australian professional wrestling, and all I can do is just, I don't want to sit here and, rattle on and try and make myself feel like I'm important, because I'm not, because his family and friends that actually knew the person behind him are mourning way more than a lot of us are. But just thinking of all of them, and Australian wrestling has a massive hole in it, and I can just encourage people to go to shows and make as much noise as you possibly can in honor of Kyle, and just make sure that his spirit lives on. And Kyle, mate, wherever you are, if you can hear this, I hope you've got a front row seat reserved. And, when my time comes, I'll catch you down the road, brother. Keep killing it as always.